to where we have a new women's Intercontinental Champion. And I want to kind of talk about this a little bit because I know there's probably going to be haters out there. But Maxine Dupree, when she started out, was just supposed to be like a manager. Found her way into the wrestling business. They started training her. And I feel like some people probably called her out on socials or something happened to where, it just made, I feel like it lit a fire in her to where I'm not saying she's the greatest wrestler in the world. I'm saying the Intercontinental Championship, I think, was rightfully placed on her to show the hard work put into what she's trying to do, or what she's doing, not trying to do, but, where she, if you look back at her a few years ago to where she was, it was supposed to be like manager for LA Knight. They changed his name, right? And so, and then she's
a male model.
Yeah. So, I mean, she's kind of found her way into the women's wrestling, definitely working her way up. Granted, she hasn't been doing this for 10 years. Like, she's getting out there. And I feel like giving her the Intercontinental Championship for the women's division last night, it was a great moment. And I feel like it just helps. It's going to fuel her even more into her career. And a shout out to her because there's haters online. They're going to be like, oh, she's not a Becky Lynch or whatever. No, she's not, but she probably could be now, especially, with the wave she's riding. So what are your guys' thoughts on Maxine Dupree? You guys probably have different takes on it, but I'm kind of curious because I'm actually excited about this title change. I think it was a big moment and it was rightfully deserved, especially with all the work she's putting into it.
Yeah, definitely. She has been putting the work in. She's been working with Natty Neidhart up at her dungeon for a long time now. And Natty, the beginning, if you hear her talk about it, she was like, nah, she's not gonna last. So we'll put her through the grind. And the girl didn't quit, and she kept coming back for more. And she really wants it. And look at this is the same thing that happened with Stacy Keibler. This is the same thing that happened with Trish Stratus. Now, I'm not saying that Maxine Dupree is on the same trajectory as them, but she could be, because you're only going to get better with the more reps you get and the things like this. So she's come miles ahead of where she was, and the crowd's behind her. And I think it was the right time. I think it was the right place, and definitely the right title, because the story there is Becky and AJ Lee. That's the real story. So we need to get that title away from her, put it on somebody that is well earned and deserved it at this point. And I think Maxine was the right person. I think they're gonna have a lot of fun with her. I think she's the future, definitely.
Yeah, I posted on my personal Facebook, but she was a former Los Angeles Rams cheerleader before she got into the business, and I'm a huge Rams fan, so obviously that makes me happy. But I mean, I was at some of those house shows whenever she was starting out. They were transitioning her from manager to wrestler, and again, just like anybody else, they weren't great. But you also have to realize that the wrestling that you started watching, the wrestling that I started watching, you started watching, there were house shows. There were a lot of things that were nowadays. WWE they've all but eliminated house shows, so you can't get those reps that you would. So it's pretty much pushing someone straight into the deep end. And I mean, now they have NXT and everything, but Maxine was kind of in that middle area where she really wasn't in NXT for that long, and then all of a sudden she's thrust onto WWE. But I totally agree, Joe. I think that this is the right time for her, and I think it looks good for any talent anywhere has aspirations of going into WWE. They can look and say, like, wow, there's a Cinderella story here. There's this person who, got a lot of hate online, and it just shows if you persevere, if you keep doing it, that you can really do anything. And I think that's a great model for people to see, hey, Maxine may be in some circles, the loud minority is not going to dictate what the majority wants to see. And that was a great moment last night. And then we found out that Rhea pulled AJ Lee away, and I mean, there's some stakes, there's some speculation maybe that she's going to be on that women's war game match. So I'm pretty pumped about that too.
No, yeah, I think it's great, real quick, with the IC championship, to where it's great that they have secondary titles for the women now, because there's only so many girls that can go for the women's championship, and a lot of the other girls are just sitting there. That's why they have women's tag team championships too, because there was just a lot of things that they weren't doing. And having the secondary title, I feel like, is a good step for a lot of these women out there to fight for something, right? Like they need to be doing other stuff besides, like I said, there's only so many stories you could tell to get to the women's championship. So.